Welcome to Speak of the Devils, the premier podcast for Sun Devil football. I'm Brad Denny with 3TV, and the Sun Devils are heading into a bye week, and Joe Healy's on a bye of sorts as well. But never fear, we went to the bench and brought on the man, the myth, the legend, Ralph Amsden. Thanks for joining me today. We got a lot to talk about. How are things in the Carolinas?
Good, good. We had a hurricane not hit us. So
Yay.
that's every September you gotta kind of worry about that sort of nonsense. I think it might have hit you guys though on game day.
Oh my yeah. I thankfully had like the day off prior to the game. And so I got to enjoy the storm. And like, yeah, we had like in our backyard at least, we had like some like nickel size hail for a while there. And I think it ultimately was like the seventh wettest day in Phoenix history or something like that. It was a nice little change of pace.
Yeah. I do not miss the water not knowing where to go, but I was the one night a year where I would record every single local news broadcast to get all the different angles on the cars that are submerged on the 17. That was all because people are going to try to brave it.
Oh, every time.
Yeah, and every time it's like a Nissan S10 lowrider chancing it.
Oh my god, I remember that day. It was like I think it's 2014 when like the I-10 flooded. I got a call at like 4 a.m. from the station. Hey, all hands on deck, weather coverage. And so, but yeah, like just all those like little hoods, of all the
Do you
cars.
see what's going on the roads? We need you to drive here now.
Yeah, and I had flashbacks because like there was for a while, like heading into the game against TCU on Friday, there was like a chance that it could be storming during the game, and I was just like flashbacks to the 2023 opener when like I had to like go down from the press box to safety and security of the press box to go do live weather reports for our newscasts next to that metal fence outside the stadium, which was great in the middle of a lightning storm.
And your bravery led you to a renewed contract.
Yes. Throwing my life on the line to, make hey, still raining out here.
Hey, nothing's cooler than the kid that braved it to get the haboob going through Sun Devil Stadium right before the year started this year. That
Yes.
was incredible footage.
And, yeah, and also hopefully he's okay because the dust storm stuff is not healthy to inhale.
That'd have been a good thing to know before the first. I Because I didn't feel like we saw a lot of them before like 2009, right? But in 2009 it was pretty regular, and we'd just run outside and stare right into it, it's breathe it all in, and apparently it's not good to fill your lungs with dirt.
Yeah, dirt and like I guess because it always comes from like the south of the valley where all like the cattle farms are. So there's the fecal matter in there, and it's yeah. So I love that like our review of ASU's thrilling comeback against TCU is already off to a completely derailed start.
Talking about breathing cow dung, this one's on you, by the way. I am not the one who brought that up, but I am. It is good. The weather here is fine, and I am happy.
Yeah, I think the weather here, like even on Friday, the weather gods were in ASU's favor, cleared the way with good weather. I believe the temperature at kickoff was 72 degrees.
Oof.
ASU's start to that game was, as we'll review here in a moment, was just as chilly, but ultimately their finish was hot thanks to a very ravenous defensive line to get that victory there. So let's talk about a couple of quick news items before we dive into our review, as well as we'll dive into ASU is kind of at that mid-season-ish mark, 5 games of the 12s down. So we'll a little bit later on discuss what Ralph and I have learned about this team so far in 2025 and some of the players that have performed well. Maybe some guys that we want to see pick it up over the next 7 weeks. All right, but before we dive into a review of what happened with ASU's 27-24 win, let's dive into a couple of quick news items. And of course, ASU's performance had a number of great individual standout showings. Prince Dorba, to no surprise, the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Week. Jesus Gomez, perhaps a little surprising because he missed 2 kicks, but for the second straight week, hit a game winner, was the Special Teams Player of the Week. by the Big 12. And one of the things that I think is really cool that they do is they honor both an offensive and defensive lines collectively. And for this, that fourth quarter, if nothing else, that ASU defensive line won the Big 12 defensive line of the week.
Make it month. That was I don't know how deep we want to get into it right away, but I just, I feel like every week I'll write like a little blurb preview, and every week I'm like, well, if we get speed off the edge, that could change the game entirely. And it wasn't just speed off the edge; it was power off the edge, and the a sack, fumble recovery, all in one motion feels like it's built to be on the video board in Arizona State football introductions for the next 20 years. Like, it's rare you see a play in process and say like, "Oh, that's going to be up there." Like that is an all-time Sun Devil play. And it was just the cherry on the 204 total yard Sunday for a quarterback that averages in the high 300s. Could not be more complimentary of what this defensive line was able to do, because this is a good offensive line and it's a great pass blocking offensive line. They're not really good at being forced back onto their heels and pushed off the ball, or good at it. They're not so bad as to have it happen to them. This is a very, very good pass blocking offensive line. It's pretty darn good run blocking offensive line too. And the defensive line gave them nothing all day long. Hoover's a good player. Don't be If that was your only time watching him, don't be fooled. The guy can ball out. It was truly a special performance. And some of these awards are nonsense. Really, like they're just a way to kind of keep your conference in the news and make sure that people are getting kudos, which makes you feel good, right? It's the same as getting a star on your paper in kindergarten. But this time it was absolutely deserved. Arizona State does not win this game without the performance of that defensive line.
All right. So one other news item to pass along, and I want to get your take, Ralph, because I know you've covered some games in Salt Lake City with some eventful drives to Utah as well. But the kickoff time was announced for ASU's first game back off the bye on October 11th. It's a late one, 7:15 Arizona time kickoff, 8:15 local if you're going to be in the Utah area, or for folks on the East Coast like Ralph, 10:15 with TV on ESPN. So good national coverage. But Ralph, I want to get your take, because to me, I think that obviously Rice Eccles Stadium's a tough place to play, but I think it's about 50 times tougher if it's a night kickoff. There's just something weird about the Utah fans, or this the environment of the stadium, but it just seems like the degree of difficulty for an opposing team ramps up substantially with a night kick.
I agree 100%. Rice Eccles is maybe one of the most underrated college football environments in the country. It's not a ton of fans. What is it, 45, 50,000 max? But they're on you,
Yeah, on top.
and they get the mighty Utah student section, and they're great. I mean, it's awesome. And so that's the way that I would kind of try to reframe it if I was Kenny Dillingham, is just like, man, it is a privilege to be able to play in Salt Lake at 8:15 local time. And the reason I say that is because we saw Lincoln Riley pre-complain, and coaches are in trouble when they're complaining beforehand. But they got the 8 p.m. West Coast kickoff time, and they had to follow it up with kicking off at 9 in the morning West Coast time 7 days later. And he talked about that leading up, and I think those type of things creep into your players' minds about, this is going to be hard. It's going to be a slog. The crazy thing is USC didn't even play all that bad, but Illinois was trying to give that game away. But when you pre-complain about stuff like that, then you create this air of impossibility, or that you're against some type of invisible odds that weren't actually ever there in your mind in the first place. People should be excited to play in Salt Lake City. People should be excited to play at night. And one of the things that I would like to see more college football coaches bring up is, if the whole point of being here in college is for us to prepare you for the pros, You got to embrace a 9 a.m. kickoff because that might happen in Sao Paulo, Brazil. You got to embrace an 8 p.m. kickoff because you might get flexed to Sunday night football. Like part of it has to be a thing where the fans embrace the idea that you get moved all around to these TV windows because you can sell to recruits that that will prepare you for what's next, because the NFL schedule doesn't have the same um it's not even monotony, but just, the locked in 1 p.m. or 4 p.m.
Yeah.
East Coast that it used to. You could be on Saturdays, Thursdays, Mondays, Sunday night on 13 days notice, or 6 days notice. And so, I think you got to embrace this stuff. You really do. And not everybody gets to play at Utah. Now, I still remember 2015, Mike Bercovici taking the second hardest hit of his career outside of the AFL. Um, but you gotta do it. If you are who you say you are, you have to be able to win in Salt Lake. Tech did it. Why not you? So and my hope is that that's the way people start talking about Tempe as well.
I mean, yeah, maybe we'll see. It's been 9 and not I believe it 9 home wins in a row for the Devils. That's not too shabby. I mean, in talking to some of these players after practice over the last, a few weeks, that's something that they're aware of and they're cognizant of, and that they are taking pride in. That like nobody's coming into their house, and it's really important. It's not just oh we got to win. It's like that extra level of awareness of just like no, like people do not come in to Tempe and leave a winner.
Abandon hope.
That's true. All right, so let's turn our attention now, Ralph, to the game at hand. We got plenty of time to look ahead to Utah, but ASU fell behind 17 nothing. As weirdly enough, that's the second time they've done it. However, this time, thanks to a thrilling, frantic fourth quarter, they were able to pull away with the victory. Let's start off with the defensive side because that's, I think, the side that really was the standout. We talked about, some of the awards that they were able to pull away. Just to put some numbers on it, 269 yards allowed to TCU overall, which is the lowest for TCU since that national title game dismantling at the hands of Georgia like 3 years ago. 6 sacks by the Devils, the most since I had forgotten, but I guess it kind of makes sense. The defense, ASU's defense, was balling out in the Fresno State game in 2023, and then the 13 TFLs, the most since the UTSA game in 2018. It just feels like around that fourth quarter or so, the defense collectively decided, even with the offensive struggles, that no, we are not losing this game.
I think I'm pretty sure statistics would back this up. Um, but the Brian Ward second half defenses, the adjustments that have been made, we say this all the time, this North Dakota State defense that has invaded college football is an answers based defense, and it learns. It's malleable, and it's great when you go out and you pick off the first pass of the game like they did against Wyoming last year. But not everything is going to go that way. You're going to go out, you're going to take a couple of punches, you're going to learn, and you're going to counterpunch. And that is a hallmark to me of a Brian Ward defense. He has been such a fantastic, fantastic addition to this staff. I know for a fact when he was in Pullman, he had his eye on ASU. Like, this is what he wanted. It's exactly where he wanted to be. And to have a head coach that's exactly where he wants to be, to have a defensive coordinator that's exactly where he wants to be, and to have them be adaptive and not get down and out and not have a bunch of situations where they're getting blown out. I think ASU has, if you believe wins over replacement is a stat in college coaching, I think that Kenny Dillingham and Brian Ward are probably responsible for at least half of what we've gotten in the last 2 years. And this was just the perfect microcosm of the Brian Ward experience to me. The offense put the defense in some not so great situations, and then the defense figured out what it was TCU was trying to do. They played off the ball, but they didn't let too many, outside of Joseph Manjack, who is a very hard person to tackle and has an incredible last name. Joseph Manjack the fourth.
Yeah, that's true.
But I think that they did a fantastic job of coming up and making plays. Like, yeah, let the receivers make a catch 4 or 5 yards down the field, but don't let them turn it into 11, 12 yards. And that's what they had a lot of success in previous games with. Eric McAllister would catch a ball and then wouldn't get tackled. He's averaging like 30 yards of reception. So, I think that Brian Ward has been fantastic, and I think this was the best example of an adaptive defense. And then in the end, when you're able to dial up and create pressure and do it without necessarily relying on bringing an extra man, again, especially against a quarterback this good in an air raid, you're in a great, great, great position. And I just that fourth quarter for that defensive line, again, outside of the Dorba play, which I think should go down in ASU history. I think that is the culmination of 3 years of work, recruiting, portal, practice, weight room, all of it. You got to see it in action, and it's the same defense that showed up in the second half of the Peach Bowl.
Mhm. Yeah, it's wild. I mean, that fourth quarter, 2 turnovers forced by the Devils, 3 yards allowed. That's getting it done in crunch time. Just absolutely a ridiculous showing. And yes, Dorba got the hat trick of sacks. I believe that was his first 3 of the year. And he had been close. Like his pressure rates and numbers have been pretty good, decent. But he just really wasn't getting there. But yeah, the floodgates were open then. Clayton Smith, Keyshawn Elliott, I thought, he's already set a career high in sacks. It's good to see him getting after it. CJ Fite got in there a little bit as well. Just this is a defense that was just putting everything on their back and delivering. And back-to-back weeks has shut down one of the better and more potent offenses in the country.
Could not agree more. It was a fun one to watch. It was not so fun for a minute. It was
Yeah.
not so fun for a minute. I was sweating bullets because you can't put your defense in situations like that and expect them to be perfect every time. And I get that fans are fans, but man, people were not happy with that defense in the first half.
There were some people that wanted to fire Brian Ward. I mean, I got more than several fans that were, but I mean, that's just the ASU fan experience, right? The knee-jerk reactions of just like, I even tweeted after the game, like, this is just another like a reminder, 600 of the games are 60 minutes, folks. Like, especially with everything we saw last year and the character of this team, like let the game unfold a little bit before we freak out and burn everything down.
And if the standard is going to be perfection, then you're going to permanently be upset. This is a conversation I've had on this show with you.
Yeah.
Cornerbacks are like baseball players. They're like baseball players. If somebody was failing at the plate 7 out of 10 times, they would be an all-star. It is not possible to guard some of the best athletes on the planet when you don't know where they are going. It is not possible. And we have guys out there who are doing their absolute best in pass coverage, and they're having a lot of success. They're having comparative statistical success to other teams and comparative statistical success against the opponents who are averaging more yards against other teams than they are Arizona State. In every comparative analytical way, Arizona State's defense is very good. And people don't care. If you give up one pass completion, you're a bum. And that is not, I don't know how people grew up understanding that baseball exists and they can't correlate this other thing that sometimes you're going to give up a reception.
Mhm.
And when you have somebody who isn't giving up receptions, like Keith Abney, that's not the standard, that's a unicorn. And you express gratitude for the experience because chances are you're not going to see another one like that for a while.
A wise man once said that if you live with a heart of gratitude, the world's a wondrous place.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I can't imagine every single time there's an incomplete pass, I'm blowing a kiss to the heavens because it's hard.
Yeah. Quarterbacks are good.
Yes,
Receivers are good. Athletes
they
are good.
they practice too.
Yeah. But like, yeah, I said Keith Abney, an unreal. I spent the month like 5 months on this show since the Peach Bowl saying his breakout. Like he was solid in his first year as a starter, but like seeing him in spring ball, like folks get ready. The two guys I kept like probably annoyingly said keep recited their names was Keith Abney and Jordan Crook. Like these guys, they're taking that next step. They are going to be superstars after this upcoming season. And put whatever stock you will into PFF and their grading system. But I don't know that I've ever seen like this wasn't just like an individual thing. This is like season to date 98.2 for coverage grade for Keith Abney. He's like a point 0.6 yards per uh route in coverage or some like insane metric. Like that's good. Like and yes, fans should be show some gratitude for the hard work that the corners are putting in.
No, our fans are a bunch of tiger moms. Like, why not 100? Come on now.
And then shout out to Rodney Bimage because Javen Robinson, who got dinged up a little in practice, gave it a valiant go, but he couldn't go. And ultimately Rodney Bimage, the young redshirt freshman, who's had a terrific offseason, and he looks ready. And like we were saying, that he could be a guy that emerges, and he's obviously firmly in that two deep, but he really stepped up and put himself in had a good game against some talented TCU receivers. And so like guys like Bimage, Martell Hughes, with the game stealing interception, like those are some of the younger guys now that I think, yeah, a lot of these defenders are going to be out of eligibility after this year or opting for the NFL. But there's that next wave that I think is well set up that we're seeing, but we're getting a taste of in the present, but also a sneak peek at the future.
I'm excited, and I remember meeting Brian Ward, flying in to help set up an interview with George Reister, Kenny Dillingham, Marcus Arroyo, and Brian Ward. And George Reister asked Brian Ward to sell ASU to recruits, look into the camera, sell ASU to recruits. And one of the things that he brought up is if you go to Arizona State, you're going to know what is expected of you at every position. And that's what this defense looks like. When somebody steps in, whether it be at like linebacker for Cyrus or at corner or at safety for Alford, people seem to know what it is that they are doing. Not every time. Obviously, there's an issue at the beginning of the Peach Bowl, and you can pick out little things here and there. But the truth of the matter is, I think the way that this defense is coached, if you know your job and you do your job, you're going to be part of something special. I think that appeals to recruits. Hopefully, it appeals to recruits, and you will see a defense that continues to have people in the two deep that can interchangeably perform.
Yeah, the phrase that they use constantly on the defensive side. You talk to any defender at any level, I'm just doing my 111th, 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 and I think that mentality now in year 3 has really stuck. And not to sound like we're the Brian Ward fan club over here, but he's obviously well accomplished on as a coach, but he's also a good human being. In my experience with him, when my father passed, like he sent some messages that were very encouraging. It's been seeing him every time. Local guy as well. So just like Kenny Dillingham. And in fact, one of the things that really struck me is my first conversation with him. It's like, oh, you're back in the valley. What's the first food spot that you hit up? And he's like, Philly Bees. Got to get a burrito. So a true valley native, and a former boxer too. So like
that is true. That is
yeah,
true. Former boxer. It's a good time to quit.
That's true. But yeah, I thought the defense overall, was able to just do really. I mean, you put the clamp, you put any Big 12 opponent under 300 yards, 10 yards rushing, Ralph. 10 yards rushing. And then 3 yards in the fourth quarter. I mean, granted, some of that is the weird NCAA stat keeping of the sack yardage. But still, that is just getting it done. And again, time and time again, we've seen it. Maybe some rough spots here and there, but that once they come out of that locker room for the final 30 minutes, like that's going to be a defense that gives the offense a lot tougher look.
And it lets the offense know, like, hey, we owe you one. Thanks for picking us up. We'll get you next time. Because it's not going to be perfect every week. There's some very talented teams in the Big 12. TCU is amongst them. And so this was a little bit of a surprise because, again, not all of those points that TCU scored were really on the defense. If the offense had been able to hold the ball in the first half, then it might not have been 17 in the first half. That number might have been less.
All right, so let's talk about that offensive side there because they if you look at some of you hunt and peck for some of the big numbers in a box score, 498 yards of offense. That's really good. That'll get
Yeah.
it done. Your quarterback throws for nearly 300 yards, a couple of picks, doesn't turn the ball over, or I should say, yeah, doesn't have an interception, runs for another touchdown. You have a back running for over 100 yards, Jordan Tyson doing Jordan Tyson things, but you have to just 27 points, and three of those come in with the last second game winning field goal. Sam Levitt after the game said, like, we are keep continuing to kind of hold ourselves back with especially the red zone woes. We should have, I think he said we should have put up 45, and that's 2 games in a row. And those red zone woes are becoming pretty pronounced, especially, a lot of fans are, I know, getting on a royal for the red zone play calling. But man, that just ASU with so many talented weapons at pretty much any pick your spot just cannot continue to come away with games where the defense is being +3 in the turnover margin, but you're only producing like 9 points off those.
Yeah, and you're getting away with it at this point. And so I'm sure it'll be a point of emphasis in practice. You have a quarterback who has the ability to roll out, to throw on the run. Not everything can go to Mateer and Jordan Tyson. Somebody else is going to have to step up. You have Malik McLean's height. You've got running back in Raleek Brown who can do a little bit off the play action or out in the flat. It. But I think at the end of the day, what Arizona State is missing is somebody who can go break a tackle or two and get into the end zone themselves. And I think this is. I didn't think it was going to be all over the field where you missed Cam Scatterbo, but the red zone is definitely a place where it's an issue because it got to a point where you had 8 in the box anytime you're inside the 15-yard line. And if everybody's keen on Cam Scatterbo, then that opens you up to go over the top or roll out or do any number of things. And then they got to back off. Well, then what do? You give the ball to Cam Scatterbo. And then it's just this cat and mouse game, and you got them right where you want them the entire time. Arizona State, I don't think, has an identity yet offensively outside of Jordan Tyson is Superman. So, they're going to have to establish that identity in the red zone, and there's room. There's room for somebody to become a playmaker. They tried for it to be Derek Eusebio last week, and he had an opportunity on like a jet sweep and didn't cut it in. And so that didn't work. And then you wonder, okay, are they going to be stubborn? Or are they going to be, what's the opposite of stubborn?
Promiscuous.
Promiscuous? I
I
don't
don't know.
Oh, hold on. Thesaurus.com. No, are they going to get a little scared, right? Because I do think you just because something doesn't work one time doesn't mean you shouldn't try it again or maybe give it a different wrinkle. And I don't want Arizona State to be playing scared in the red zone. Who cares about all the criticism that's coming Marcus Arroyo's way? If you had a play blow up because maybe there was pressure or you didn't run it right, run it again. If you believe in it, run it again. They don't have to overhaul everything that they do, but they just don't have that go-to person yet. They haven't the crappy thing for Arizona State is they haven't put anything on film that really works consistently that somebody else has to plan for. So, and so you can't use any misdirection because nothing has really been effective at this point. But what I tell you what you can't do is you can't take the ball out of your quarterback's hands on 4th down, especially at the minus 30. You can't do that. So I think that was probably my biggest moment of head scratching and maybe whispering a couple things under my breath was taking your quarterback out of the play. You've already failed to run the ball up the gut. Your guards haven't gotten great push all year against defensive line, especially ones that have the ability to, if they're in a 3-3-5, they have a huge nose guard or, something like that. Like people that can overload the middle. You haven't had a lot of success with that, and you didn't have success with it on 3rd down. So what are you going to do? You're going to hike the ball directly to Kyson Brown and run it right up the middle and take the ball out of Sam Levitt's hands. That put people in a bad mood, in my opinion. And so then you struggle in the red zone, and then people's minds are going back to this play that ended up in points for TCU when they took over on downs. So I think some of the frustration is that people were all out of grace to give because you played the no risk it, no biscuit game, but you risked it and got no biscuit. So, or you gave the other team a biscuit. And so I think that was probably part of the issue. And then the other part is just not really knowing who you are in the red zone. And they had success on fourth down at the end of the game. But again, that comes from Jordan Tyson. And you know that they're going to have, he's either going to get their best coverage or he's going to get bracketed, or they're going to try to bump him off the line. Like that, they're going to do everything they can to try to take him out. So you can't solely rely on him in case that works. And so I don't have a ton of confidence yet, but I also don't want to see them overhauling the entire system, if that makes sense.
Yeah, the red zone was just kind of baffling just because like we've seen them just kind of do that same thing, like the Mississippi State goal to go, three from the three, just like three runs up the middle. I mean, like you have a quarterback as agile and as nimble and as elusive as Sam, like at least somewhere, play action off of that. I don't know, maybe they're playing this super long game, putting all these stubborn runs up on films to that one time against the Texas Tech or in Arlington or something that they'll run a play action or something. But like, yeah, on that fourth down play, that touchdown, like I was down by that time down on the field in that end zone. It's like everybody knew, okay, this ball's going to be going Jordan Tyson's way, and he made the play. But the opposite of playing scared though is like they were going for it at that 4th and 1 after the tie game, on that final possession before the false start resulted in what would be the game winning kickoff. And Kenny, after the game, like he dug in and was like, no, we were going to go for it, and they did run the play. Sam got in, but unfortunately, yeah, the flag was there. What was your thought on just that specific decision of just like, all right, we're inches away, we sneak it in, we put them in a real tough spot. Worst case, we get stonewalled. They got to go 9, like from the 1 to get into field goal range.
It felt consistent. It felt consistent. Like that's the type of stuff that this coaching staff does. You say some people say fortune favors the bold. I think I heard that in a commercial for crypto company where the CEO is now serving 20 years.
Matt Damon.
However, at one point, he was very rich. So for a moment, fortune did favor the bold. I think that this coaching staff, that's their character. And if they want to go down doing that, I think they find that acceptable. But I do think it is just an entire group of people who believe the whole scared money don't make money. And so it really feels like it was in character and on par for Kenny Dillingham and his whole staff.
Yeah, and I mean, ultimately, you're winning games. You're putting up nearly 500 yards on what had been a pretty solid TCU defense. Your quarterback, still not, I don't think is anywhere playing where he was a year ago, or at least near the winning stretch, but he's making strides, I think. But I think there's still two like kind of glaring issues here in terms of just the red zone issues. Also, just that search for somebody else that's not Jordan Tice, because you mentioned like, and I was on another podcast today as a guest, and I use that exact term of just Jordan Tyson's been Superman, and he's been Superman for basically 5 weeks. Is he going to be able to do that for 13 weeks in a row, or do you have somebody that can step up and take some heat off? And we've seen Mateer be more involved in the passing game, which has been nice and well overdue. But like, it'd become a kind of a running joke in the media a little bit of, is this the week Jaron Hamilton's going to get his first catch? Because he had been tearing fall camp up, and yet just for one reason or another, had not been a factor. Finally gets that 44-yard catch. Maybe that's the first domino and the confidence to just continue to go. And but I don't know, just that is continuing to be an issue, because I think ultimately you're going to run into a defense where like Superman can't bail you out at that time. So insert other DC hero of your choice to step up.
Howard the Duck? No, that's Marvel. I don't know. I don't know DC very well. I think it's getting to the point, and I don't want to be a downer, but why would you transfer to Arizona State as a receiver with options at this point? And that's a narrative that this team should really want to shake through involving other people. I know Jalen Moss is hurt, but you brought in a receiver from Clemson and one from Alabama, and you got a few that are still here, and none of them have as many catches as Troy O'Meary at UNLV.
Oh, how's he doing? I genuinely don't know.
Great. He's
Is he?
doing great. Yes.
Okay.
It's stuff like that that makes you feel like maybe it wasn't a Troy O'Meary problem. You know, maybe it's a trust issue. But when Arizona State did not have Jordan Tyson available to them, Sam Levitt played his best football. Sam Levitt has played his most exciting football in 2025. I don't think anybody can argue that. But his best football was played against Iowa State without the availability of Jordan Tyson when he was forced to rely on other receivers.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that you don't want to have to lose Jordan Tyson in order to get out of your quarterback. We were averaging in going into the 5th game of the season, 1 wide receiver reception and 1 tight end reception. That can't continue. It can't. It's not how any other college football team works outside of the Reggie Ball, Calvin Johnson, Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets.
Yep.
So that's not sustainable. And I think everyone knows that's the case. Even when you win, it could be a distraction. Right now, the Philadelphia Eagles locker room is in shambles. And they're like undefeated and coming off a Super Bowl win. And the locker room is still a mess because you have 2 first-round picks combining for 36-yard receiving in what was a dominant win over Tampa Bay. Do you want to start having locker room problems while you're on your way to a Big 12 championship? No. So you got to get people involved. And one of the things that they did early, really early against TCU, is they hit Jordan Tyson on a screen to get him involved immediately. Why can't that be done with anyone else? So it's charity. Who cares? Get people involved. You know, so I don't know. That's the one thing that's been it. You need good players, and it's hard to convince. Like Air Force is not going to get a 5-star quarterback because they run the triple option. Triple option with 2 P's. Shout out to Khalil Tate. But like they're not going to get a 5-star quarterback, right? How is Arizona State going to recruit receivers if for 2 years in a row they haven't been able to get the ball to other receivers? Eventually that becomes an issue. So I would like to see some of that involvement manufactured. We can blame it on the receivers. We can do whatever we want. At the end of the day, all that's going to matter is production. And I'm not even saying these kids are smart enough to figure that type of stuff out on their own. A lot of them are making decisions based on whether the uniforms look cool. But it's about the people recruiting against you. It's about what happens when Bobby Wade, former Arizona State employee, calls and a kid is deciding between Arizona and Arizona State. And Bobby Wade's going to point to the fact that Jordan Tyson has 85% of wide receiver receptions. Because that's what they do. They all look for a way to have an advantage. And sometimes that advantage comes from kicking the ladder out from somebody else. That's just how negative recruiting works. So you don't want to give people reasons. If you were recruiting against TCU right now, Brad, would you call them and tell them like they don't get their receivers involved?
I would not.
Right. So, but if you were calling and recruiting against TCU and you were Arizona State's running backs coach, Sean Aguano, you probably have plenty to say.
Yeah.
10 yards rushing on the road? Like, you don't want to go there. The days of LaDainian Tomlinson have come and gone. Name the last great Sonny Dykes a running back, right? We're going to be on the opposite end of recruiting like that from other Big 12 teams and Big 10 teams who are in Southern California. When it comes to recruits, and you want to be able to have good receivers, so they got to get them involved.
Definitely. So we'll see exactly what kind of adjustments they make on the bye to get those guys involved, whether it's that chemistry with Malik McClain and Sam Levitt that just seems so weirdly off this year. Just like, McClain seems to be getting like, a handful, 4 or 5 targets, but just like whether it's Sam airmailing them off or some penalties or just there's always something happening over when the targets are going in that direction. And as like you could almost like predict the box score week in, week out of just like Tyson, 8, 9 catches, whatever running back is starting that week, 4 to 6. Mateer lately 4 to 6, and then just a couple of ones in terms of the receptions. And
Yeah,
I just think once you get into the real home stretch of stuff, it's not a sustainable strategy.
not for a conference champion. No.
All right, so let's talk real quick about the special teams on display there because I think it was a mixed bag. Ultimately, Jesus Gomez made the kick that counted most, but uncharacteristic after his 4 for 4 performance for missing a couple sub 50 yarders. And then, of course, with Canyon Floyd out, Matt McKenzie took over as the punter, and just really struggled. And he's had some huge kicks in practice. Just when he's had his opportunities on game day, it just really hasn't panned out yet.
When people are going to want me to say something bad about Charlie Ragle, it's not going to happen. At the end of the day, your punter has to kick the ball farther than they did, and your kicker has to make field goals. What do you think? What do you think a special teams coach is going to do? What do you think a special teams coach does? Do you think when the punter was taking the field, he was like, "Hey, shank this"? What do you think goes into it? Was the kick blocked? No. That's typically a special teams coach issue. Has that happened in the past? Sure. But we're not addressing that. We're talking about shank punts, missed kicks. It is Charlie Ragle's job to go out and get better players. He did. He did. We have a kicker who has the ability to, you don't have to rethink even attempting a kick with him in there. Now, he's still a college kicker. Kickers miss sometimes. But he has 2 punters to choose from, and one wasn't available. Yeah. I just want people to be intellectually honest when they blame things on coaches. What is another special teams coach going to do? Did Charlie Ragle tell him to miss it? Like, let's be really specific. It can't just be a kicker missed, so a coach needs to get fired. Explain why you believe that to be the case, and I will listen. I will absolutely listen to anybody who's like, you know what, Charlie Ragle's responsibility there was to make sure that his kicker was calm and ready. Like if you had something, but instead it was just like, oh, he missed a kick. Fire this guy. That's not what we need to be doing here, because you need to realize like, oh, I expected him to make it. The reason I expected him to make it is because I saw him make all these other kicks, which is what he was brought here to do by Charlie Ragle. So at some point, you also got to give credit for the good, of which there's been plenty. Now, the field conditions were trash. They could have been worse. Not a shot at the grounds crew, nothing to do with the grounds crew. But you have to ask yourself, what were the variables in place? And that's really all I can think of. Could both the kicker and the punter have had the yips? Maybe. Maybe, but we don't know. We don't know the reasons kicks go in or do not go in, whether it's a matter of practice or angle or mental or what. We don't know. And he made the one that counted, but is there credit in that? Are we equal opportunity with it? I just don't think I've been seeing people calling for Charlie Ragle's job, and I just want to know what it is you expect him to do.
I have a feeling you're gonna get some tweets after this because there's some fired up folks that are
Well,
that have opinions. But
I'm inviting it.
I
I'm inviting it. I would
no.
like that if you actually have it. But if it's just that we've underperformed, therefore he needs to be fired. Okay, well, what is the 3-year progression? How did Arizona State get to be 4-1? Is the one because of a special teams issue? You know, who would you have instead? Can this be solved by removing one person, or is there somebody you have your eye on? If like uh the guy from Rubio long snapping wants to hit me up and be like, these are the 3 things that they're doing wrong in blocking schemes. Sure, that's legitimate. But this whole thing of like, we need to fire somebody because a ball went off the side of the punter's foot. What did the coach have to do with that? Let me know because I don't understand. And I'm not trying to be a Charlie Regal defender either. I just when we're talking about somebody losing their job on a 4-1 team, I want to know what specifically it is people are looking for. I just want to know. So I welcome the tweets. Please send them.
All right. So I feel there's some folks I think that in specific I'll be keeping a look at your mentions because I look forward to seeing the discourse from a distance. Should be interesting.
And I'll be like, uh, hey, Coach Regal, first name bunch of numbers says you should tell them to make their kicks. And maybe Charlie Regal hasn't thought of it. Maybe he didn't think of that.
Yeah, maybe.
And first name bunch of numbers could save ASU season.
There we go. All right, let's turn the page now. And so ASU, of course, 5 games into the 12-game regular season slate. That's close enough for mid-season-ish kind of talk. And now, I mean, we've obviously started to, through 5 games. That's a healthy part of the schedule where you start to get a sense of some trends, both positive and negative. Some of the players that are really kind of emerging, and whether the expectations that we held for this squad and some of the players are being met or maybe lacking a little bit. So we're going to run down some categories here and kind of give our takes on some things that we've seen from these Sun Devils through this 4-1 and 2-0 conference play. Starting with the biggest positive surprise, something that is a kind of a trend, a team level aspect that really has kind of jumped out to you. Ralph, what's been your biggest positive surprise so far?
Try not to go overboard with the praise on this one, but having watched Raleek Brown in high school and at USC, and I I didn't know if he was a guy that could have 15 to 20 touches a game. So the biggest surprise for me has been the way he's reworked his body to be able to handle being a feature back. That was not a thing that I expected. I expected him to still be used as sort of a change of pace guy, home run hitter guy, third down draw guy, and that's not. I mean, he is an every down back, and I did not see that coming. And there's been a lot of elite athletes who get a ton of praise and recognition before they ever get to the college ranks because they are speed freaks at the high school level, and then they get to college, and unless space is created for them to work in, it doesn't look the same. And there's been guys like Jalen Red, so many fast small guys, Paul Lucas, who went to
Oh, Paul.
Oregon State as a running back and ended up an Arizona State cornerback. um, there's been so many of these super, super speedy guys that have not worked out. But I see the way that Raleek Brown has put on weight, and there's still times when his shoulders are parallel to the sideline, and I'm yelling at the TV. But honestly, he is so much more well-rounded than I ever thought he would be, and that's my biggest surprise.
For me, it's that the Sun Devil resilience that defined 2024 is starting to really kind of show and appear and manifest in this 2025 group of Sun Devils. The last 2 games in particular, I thought, obviously some of these situations are them shooting themselves in the foot and making things much more difficult, whether it's a penalty or just miscommunication, missed assignments. But that ability to kind of dig deep, overcome that adversity, and is really, I thought, jumped out to me. Whether it's holding off a really good Baylor team in a hostile atmosphere on the road, or coming back and mounting that fourth quarter rally to take down TCU. I thought that last year that was the most critical element of their success. Why that team was able to go on the run is they were able to dig deep, be resilient, taking the opponent's punch, get off the mat, and continue fighting and find a way to earn a victory. And I think so far the last couple weeks we have seen that trait, and I think especially with the gauntlet on the schedule coming up, that is coming into the year, like even though there was a lot of the same faces, it's just like we don't know the character and the tenor of this team as of yet. But in some of the spots in the first couple weeks, I don't know. But the last two, I think, have really kind of signaled to me that aspect of last year's team is present here in 25.
I'm learning so much about you right now, based on this being a big surprise for you. Okay, so let me see if I can read your childhood here. You didn't have to be told twice to do your homework.
I mean, I never really had homework, but like chores sometimes, yeah, I had like, it wasn't, I don't know.
But you do good grades.
Yeah, yeah, I
When
didn't get
a group
yeah.
project, you weren't bringing everybody down. You were doing your part in
Mhm.
group projects.
Yeah, there's a couple I were just like, "No, I'll take care of it, guys."
Yeah, no, that
I wa
okay.
I was
So
that guy.
yeah, you're not striking me as a massive procrastinator, and this is what this is what I'll say. As a procrastinator, um, you tell yourself like the junior high is over with, you're going to high school. Well, these grades are permanent now. I'm gonna get it together. I'm gonna get my stuff together. And guess what? You don't. You procrastinate all through high school, and somehow, by the grace of God, you get your graduate equivalency diploma, and you make it to junior college, and you tell yourself, I'm paying for these classes. Like this money's coming out of my pocket. There's no way that I'm going to treat this the way that I treated junior high and high school. And guess what? You're up at 5 in the morning trying to do a project that's due at 7 a.m. because you decided to go to Country Kitchen with your friends while they drank coffee and smoked cigarettes all night. For 3 days in a row, you had 4 days to do this project, but you pull it off and you get through junior college, you get your associate's degree, and you get into Arizona State University, and you tell yourself, I I'm going into debt for this one. I'm going to get my stuff done on time. And then all of a sudden your wife is in labor with your second child, and you are telling her, "Hold on, I'll drive you to the hospital as soon as I get this group assignment turned in. It's the last one before my degree." And I tell you all that to tell you that procrastinators procrastinate. They never change. This whole thing with Arizona State becoming their character, I think it's just going to be who they are. I don't think they're going to run away with too many games. I think they need to do this to feel alive. And I'm not trying to project too much of my own life as a last minute guy or somebody who needs pressure to perform or whatever, but it doesn't go away. Like you would have to overhaul some of the probably the main people on this team to establish any new kind of identity. I think there are people on this team who like to get up out of the dirt. But in order to get up out of the dirt, you got to eat the dirt first. There's just no other way. And so I would say that I'm not surprised that they continue to be this way, because they've been this way, and people who are this way stay this way. So maybe you'd figure it would change from year to year, but I don't know, man. I don't know. I think this team is gonna. I had a friend growing up who would always say, "Hey, we don't have to make a project out of everything," and a little voice inside me was like, "Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We have to create adversity to overcome it." And I think this is an adversity creating team and an overcoming team, which is a good thing.
Sun Devil football, spending the first half firing off heaters at the Country Kitchen.
Yeah. Basically, what else is 17 nothing say to you?
Well, it's also interesting because like they also had like some monstrous like first halves of last season, and then yeah, it was like then they saved the like it's just weird, and that kind of like goes into my biggest negative surprise as we jump down there, the inability still to play a complete 60 minutes. One half's going to be really good. One's going to have every fan saying fire everybody, burn down the stadium. It's you would think that it's at some point they would able to just like because they're so much more talented than a season ago. I think they're so much well positioned. So many guys are. I mean, pretty much every key player is more comfortable in this. Everything's aligned, but just some way, somehow, the allure of the country kitchen or whatnot, they are getting just they can't do it. Maybe they will, and they might have to at some point, especially if they're gonna take down an Iowa State or a Texas Tech. But good lord, just like I would think that so many guys coming back from that championship team, addressing some of the key areas through the portal and having the coaching staff continuity, that they would be able to play just even Kenny joked about it earlier today, just like, okay, maybe let's just play, 30 minutes. Then suddenly we'll play a full 45, and then eventually we can get to a full 60. But just like the ebbs and flows of this team are just I still like it's surprising to me in a not great way.
I feel you. Mine is I think Kanye Udo. He has a really specific skill set that worked in a really specific way, and I believe would probably still work. I think it's a usage issue, and I'm surprised they haven't figured it out yet. I hope they will.
All right, so moving on to breakout player. Who's your pick?
It's hard to say the guys who there were expectations on. Um, and I know I'll speak for the guys that don't show up at practice every day because I don't think this is a surprise to you. But Jordan Crook, that's to me, that's the surprise breakout player because they were already fairly stacked at linebacker with high level performers returning. And he's not the guy that I would have pointed at to say, like, oh, we 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 need him on the field. We are better with him on the field. So that to me is my biggest surprise performer.
He's so fun to watch. I mean, he just brings it at another level, and just both he and Keyshawn just being in year 2, and, Brian Ward has been saying for a while that, like, that second year in my system, the guys just they know the why, they play so much more instinctively and smooth, and you just see that manifest with those 2 guys, and yeah, Crook has been on my I've been, driving that fan club bus there because he's just been so impactful, but, for me, it's Raleek Brown, just because I thought that, we would have more of a committee approach so far, but, I mean, as of this recording, he's leading the conference in rushing, leading the conference in rushing yards per game, 20 plus yard carries, yards from scrimmage per game. Like he's just, you kind of, as you touched upon it, like a guy that you thought maybe is a more complimentary role just because while he has added power to his game that was built around speed, elusiveness, he's just been, that guy that's, trending to be the latest, Sean Guano
Yeah.
1,000 yard plus type of contributor and just one of those guys that we'll see. I mean, through 5 games, and of course, Kyson Brown's injury kind of maybe opened the door a little bit. But yeah, I mean, to your earlier point, I mean, Kanye Udo is kind of like an afterthought at this point because it just seems like they're content to go with the Brown and Brown backfield.
Mhm. Absolutely. Um,
All right.
no, go ahead.
All right. So next up, on the other end of the spectrum here, um, the player that we're say, the kind of the disappointed dad face of just what a player that you had some expectations for, and of course it's still the season's still young and they can turn it around, but a guy you'd like to see, really kind of pick things up from what they've shown so far.
Gosh, is there a way to put every single receiver's name together just in a big word jumble? Um,
Yeah.
Here, the controversial take. Shimon Mateer.
Oh, oh, okay. Explain.
Would you say that he has improved upon last year?
I think it's not always evident because like the first few games they're basically just using him as another lineman. And of course, the whole issue with Sam, looking to anywhere but Jordan Tyson. I think the last few games he's had like 6 and 4 catches after basically being a non-factor in the past game. but he's been so such an integral part of the success with the ground game. And um, I mean, I don't know, I'm not necessarily a scout, but I think he is who he is, and that's been a really good tight end. And I think that perhaps the last was it yeah 3 games, perhaps he can build upon that.
You're probably right, and it's possible I'm being unfair, but it you do expect progression. You're talking about year two in Brian Ward's system. Well, how about multiple years in Marcus Arroyo's? Can we can
Yeah.
we get some yards after the catch? Can we do more than deep outs, catching the ball 8 yards down the field on the sideline, you know, running with Sam when he breaks the pocket. Um, it's really just there are some things that you would like to see because these players are being prepared and being evaluated for the next level. And so some of it's just, I'm disappointed I don't see Sam step into the pocket and let it rip more. I'm
Mm.
disappointed that I don't see uh, Shimon Mateer with the opportunity, against a smaller linebacker in coverage to make a move with the ball in his hand. But it's also like, man, I had to be nitpicky to even get to this point. So not trying to dump on anybody. I just want to see progression over last year. Those are the expectations that are set with success. Is that you did something good. Now what are you going to do? Impress me. You know, Taco Bell gave us the gordita crunch, and then they can't just sit on that. They got to give us nacho fries too. Like, where are our nacho fries, Shimon Mateer? Give us our nacho fries.
Put that on a shirt. I like it. For me, it's kind of I with your initial thing, just all the receivers. I'm going to narrow it down to Jaron Hamilton.
Mm,
He torched that ASU defense that we have now seen is really good, basically for the duration of fall camp. And you really kind of go back to the last 2 weeks of spring ball, and that deep ball dynamic. And he was just such a consistent force on the offense in practice, and that has really not translated at all. And it's I think he's had some chances to do so since that opener in which he only played a snap. But I think there's some he's Heinz Ward has kind of said there's some issues, maybe learning that playbook, knowing the responsibilities, but in the chances that he's had, there's been some issues there. Of course, you look at that what would have been like an 86-yard touchdown on that deep ball against Texas State that just hit him in the hands and just unfortunately was dropped. So I think that what we've seen is a really talented receiver that can really add a different element to this Sun Devil offense. That just hopefully that 44-yard catch this past week against TCU is maybe the confidence booster that okay he's off the schneid now, start getting the ball rolling a little bit and get things going because I think that he can be a real type of a weapon that can help those defenses pay not so much attention to Jordan Tyson.
it's interesting that you said off the schneid and not over the hump.
Yes, yes, yes. Maybe we'll leave it there just for
Wink,
you know.
wink.
Yep. We'll just leave it there for the perpetually chronically online folks. Um, all right. Moving on to Ralph. What's been the strongest position groups through 5 games in your opinion?
Mm, as a group, huh? Corner,
Yeah.
corner
Okay.
as a group. Yeah, yeah. And I obviously Keith Abney setting the curve a little bit, but you look at everybody that they brought in, and yeah, I don't see too many performances against Arizona State that would be the equivalent of what Jordan Tyson has done to anybody else.
For me, I'm going linebacker. In the offseason, we had a show where we kind of ranked our confidence ranking, our positional confidence rankings. I had linebackers number one, and they've done nothing to take me off of that list so far. Huge fan of what Crook's been doing. Keyshawn Elliott has really just been such like the guy that kind of he was at New Mexico State, one of those backers that will fill like every column of a stat sheet. And those I really like those type of players. You throw Martell Hughes into that mix as well. Cyrus Fiase who dinged up a little bit, but another veteran presence. Tate Romney, when he's got his chances, I thought has been really effective as well. So I think, granted, might be a little, grading on a curve since typically there's only 2 on the field at a time. but I think the linebackers overall have been really terrific and leading that Sun Devil defense. On the flip side, Ralph, weakest position group so far, one that needs to step it up.
I'm scared. I'm scared to talk. Uh,
It's a safe space, Ralph. Safe space.
Guard.
Okay.
I'm not. It's not even me trying to be boring either. It's watching us run up the middle unsuccessfully, and also to watch some of the pressure that Sam Levitt has faced coming from the interior. Um, he would almost rather it because he has that rollout move that he can accelerate into, and as long as nobody's pinching from the edge or has contain, he does a lot of damage. But our interior pass blocking and interior run blocking is not where it needs to be to win this conference.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I just kind of had the O line collectively because I do think that the interior pressures has been an issue. Pass protection in general has been kind of like a I don't want to say red flag at this point, but not far off because if Sam Levitt is not the most elusive man in the world on a couple of situations, who knows what some of these wins might actually look like because he's been just phenomenal in spinning away from pressures and being elusive and making some plays and with some that magic because the pass protection I think has just really been suffering. And I there yeah people will say four returning starters, but really kind of when you're moving Ben to a position that's Ben Coleman to a new position that's foreign and he's got to learn that skill set. It's different. And then Kenny Dillingham said that they're going to start to get Jalen Clem and Wade Helton more involved in the offensive line rotation. They've been playing a lot of plays, having some sustained drives, which is good, but they haven't been able or haven't really been rolling out that 7-man O-line rotation that they like to do. So maybe that'll help guys stay a little bit fresher, a little more on the ball. But I agree, like just specifically that stuff in the interior just is not where it needs to be, and just in collective, generally the pass protection has been poor, which leads into the next category of the one thing that must improve for the duration of the season. For me, it's pass protection. No need to rehash what I just said. How about for you? What's the one thing that you need to see happen over these last 7 games?
There's I don't know if you can relearn what to do as a I guess it's the running backs that I every year we go in and people are like, "Oh, we're so deep at running back. Isn't that awesome?" And I'm like, "No, we're not deep at running back. No one's deep at running back. You give 70% of the carries to your workhorse, and that's what you do." Then to being Raleek Brown, and he has flashed some really special traits, and there's a couple of bad habits that are keeping him from being the best running back in the conference and one of the best in all of college football. I'd like to see him make some of those adjustments, hit holes harder, spend less time dancing. He does the pause and shake, which is that's a tough one, right? Like it to get flat footed and it almost like in a triple threat basketball position, and then to get the defender guessing if you're going to go right or left, and then to try to burst or out accelerate them. He's not too much of a dancer, but he'll do the pause and shake, or he'll get parallel to the sideline. Those type of things. If he just goes straight no nonsense, then I think we might have ourselves the best running back in the Big 12.
Yeah, especially in the Baylor game. Like I even said in the press box to Hoda, it was just he's trying to be Le'Veon Bell in a certain situations where just kind of that wait and see develops when like no with your speed and that burst just like that's not your game. And then you saw like you've said a couple times just like the hesitation and like trying to be parallel, like going east west, just go north south, man. Like you're so good and you can run by people if you're just more decisive and deliberate with your approach.
Yeah, and I don't think it's good. Like you can run into the block, test out your power, see if you can make something of it, and it could be a 1 yard loss, 1 yard gain, whatever it is. Or you could run 35 yards to the sideline for a 1 yard loss, 1 yard gain, whatever it is, trying to make a play. Like one of those is going to wear you down over time. And so, it you don't just because it feels like you're doing something doesn't mean you're actually doing something.
All right. So as we wind down here, the last couple, who is your first half-ish Sun Devil team MVP?
Keith Abney. Keith is the MVP, and then Abney is the co-MVP. He's both.
Oh, so then, like the second is what? Just what Keith Abney
Honorable
second.
mention.
There
All
you
Big
go.
12.
For me, it's Superman Jordan Tyson. I mean, he's bailed this team out a
Mhm.
number of times and just being Superman. So that might be the kind of like I don't know, like that's probably maybe we'll retroactively say who are our offensive and defensive MVP. Boom, got it covered. We're great.
Well, that's the nice thing about it is the the nice thing about it is they both probably feel a sense of relief when they get to go up against anybody but each other.
That like we said that in our season preview just because like the battles in fall camp like there's like they are going up against one among the best in the country 30 times a day. And then, that in both of them have, exceptional work ethics. And then, so it's no surprise to see what they're doing now, in on game day. And, I mean, obviously, Jordan Tyson's going to be a top half of the first round type of draft pick. Keith Abney, I think, is continuing. I mean, if he was 2 inches taller or something, I think, I'm getting some Kobe Williams vibes a
That's
little bit.
yes. Yes.
And I know you,
Doug Tamaro has been, lobbying for people to, because I say Kobe Williams is the most underappreciated player of the last 25 years.
yeah,
And the
yes.
reason is because I posted a picture of him and no one knew who it was.
That was your tweet, like, fairly recently, because I saw
Yes.
that, and I was like, "Yes," because I and because I've been saying that, like, it's yes, like, he just a guy that, like, really the ball never went his way because he did his job, but, if he was only just a few had a bigger frame, I think he would have been, I think he's still having success in the CFL, right? And
Yes.
so,
Yeah.
but he'd be a solid NFL player if he, just had that bigger
I will
frame.
never forget. I'm going to Pac-12 Media Day, and JoJo Wicker is there, and I said, "Who is going to play this year that no one will see coming?" And he said, "Kobe Williams." And I remember being like, "Okay, besides high school teammates of yours, because obviously you're gonna plug your guys from Long Beach Poly." And he's like, "I don't have another answer for you. It's Kobe Williams." And I was like, "Be for real," because he had 1 year of JUCO, and we were at the point where Arizona State was collecting as many DBs as they could. I think to come in and play for Phil Bennett because it was like Taron Adams and was it Damon King? Like they were just trying to bring in as many JUCO guys as possible,
Yeah.
because we had like 130th ranked pass defense the year before. So it was like do what Cal did, because Cal did that. Under Sonny Dykes, they had a terrible defense and they just went and got like 5 corners, and whoever was the best of those played, and they got better. So Arizona State did a little bit of that, and Kobe Williams started for 3 years for Arizona State. No one even knew his name while he was playing because it was the most boring tenure. I think he had one interception pretty early.
Pick 6.
Yeah. And then after that, it was people just
Nobody
didn't
wanted.
throw his way. And he got accolades. He got accolades. He got the PFF grades. He got, I think, big Pac 12 second team or something like that. And yeah. And to this day, people don't remember that he played at Arizona State. So I appreciate what Doug Tamaro is saying by the players on the defending Big 12 championship winning Arizona State Sun Devils. Someone appreciates some of those guys, I guarantee you. People will remember their names. When I talked about Kobe Williams to people who are diehard Sun Devil fans, they're like, "Who?" And I'm like,
That's a
started
shame.
opposite of Chase Lucas. And they don't, it just never reached. 3 year starter, 5'8", made every tackle. Well, he did get he got shook out of his cleats one time. but he had to play against a lot of really good quarterbacks. But yeah, I mean, to me, that is who that is, and so I think that's an awesome comparison on your part for sure.
All right, so let's close things out with obviously we all came into this season with our expectations of what this 2025 team would do, made our predictions, but we now have 5 large data points on this team. How have those first 5 games impacted your expectations of this team so far?
My expectation coming in was no one was going to kick the doors in on Arizona State. They were going to be able to compete with everybody, and it would really come down to a couple of coaching decisions and what people were able to do in game situations. It has played out exactly the way that I thought it would. It's hard to win on the road in the SEC, but they had an opportunity to do it. It changes
Against
nothing.
what's now a pretty good was looking like a pretty good Mississippi State team in retrospect.
Yeah, yeah. Shout out to Jeff
Right.
Levy, cycled through 70 players and put a good product on the field with a one-time Arizona State commit Blake Shapen. Yeah, I expected this to be a team that went out and could compete with everyone on its schedule. No guaranteed losses. The first year of me being an Arizona State fan or in my time covering Arizona State that I ever looked at the schedule and said, I don't see a loss. Not one. No wins. You earn wins, but I couldn't guarantee a loss. And so far, they have gone out and they've competed with everybody. And I watched all of these Big 12 teams play. And while Texas Tech is better than I thought they'd be defensively, I still believe this is an Arizona State team that can compete with everyone. And it just comes down to execution.
Yeah, for me, I think that my these first 5 games have kind of aligned with what I thought. I thought this was going to be a team that had a lot of the ability to, you know, be obviously much more talented than last year and addressing some of those key weaknesses, notably place kicker, especially. I thought they're going to have some challenges along the way, but I think that I think they're right on course. I think these next 2 games, are going to tell a lot. Utah and Texas Tech. I think as long as they, at worst split that pair, should be right on course and be firmly in the mix. But I think I was touting the defense. I thought the defense was going to be this team's strength in 2025, and nothing says differently to me through these first 5 games. The pass rush has been a pleasant surprise. So I think that the defense is going to give the offense some time. Granted, not all the time, but some time to continue to figure out their issues with in the pass game, red zone, whatever. But I think that there's playmakers, running back, receiver, obviously quarterback. We'll see. But I think these first 5 games haven't thrown me off necessarily. The course of what I said. I believe I said 10-2 on our season preview. Now, granted that Mississippi State loss was a little bit surprising, just because again I think Mississippi State's a little ahead of schedule in their rebuild. I had ASU losing at Utah in the preseason prediction, and then kind of like a one weird game just because it's the Big 12 and weird things like Cincinnati last year will kind of happen on a regular basis. Nobody gets out unscathed, but I think as long as ASU is in that two conference loss mix, depending on who that is, I think that they can be again in that mix for a spot in Arlington.
Agreed.
Earlier this week, I had a chance to catch up with ASU defensive tackle CJ Fite. We talked about the defense's dominance in the fourth quarter in the win over TCU, the improved pass rush, the team's resiliency, and so much more. And we'll get to that conversation in just one quick moment. But wanted to shout out our amazing lineup of sponsors, starting with Hoder Bino and his staff, which a staff that includes one Joe Healy over at Devil's Digest, insight, breaking news, conversation you won't find anywhere else. Get in the huddle at devilsdigest.com and get one of the best burritos in the valley at Burrito Express. 8 Valley locations now, including also some in the select Circle K locations. All the details at theburritoexpress.com. You can also gear up at Cactus Sports, 514 South Mill Avenue. Also, cactussports.com. You got to make sure you're looking good on game day. Also, support the great work being done by Sun Devil Family Charities. It's a great way to help Sun Devils battling severe medical issues. Find all the details on their great work at sundevilfamily.org. Jones Auto Group is the best place to get a great ride. So make sure you connect with former Sun Devil Parker Jones, Jones Ford Verde Valley.com. All the great details and information and locations as well. And then also our newest sponsor, the good folks and diehard Sun Devils at Nice Pest Company. You can find all the info there at nicepest.com. All right, let's talk to CJ Fite. What happened in that fourth quarter where it just seemed like that D line just was like, we're gonna win this game?
I think just in football in general, you live for opportunities like that. You live for opportunities to, I guess, rush the passer. So not even just rush the passer, just to have the ability to kind of close the game out. But like we just did our job. The back end did their job, backers did their job, so they gave us enough time to hit home. So it's really just team defense working, and we just got the stats to show for it. But it's really everybody that played the part to make it happen. So shout out to all the guys rushing. Shout out to the people, the guys in the back. Like I said, everything plays in a one. So yeah.
What was it the kind of the feeling like, on the field with the D line, or even on the sideline in that fourth quarter, where you guys just knew like you were dominating, and basically you were imposing your will on TCU?
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, we live for the opportunities like that. To be able to have a chance to make plays like that is big, and we have a thing called 4=1 in our room. So if somebody gets a sack, it's not just because the one guy that got the sack, it's because of like all four that go. So if you ask anybody that got a sack, they'll probably say 4=1, or the guys next to us did a job, so things like that. So I'm not taking away from what Prince, like people like Prince and Clay, everybody got sacks at what they did because they had good moves, but there's a lot goes into it. So yeah, I mean, it's easier to do your job when you know you have guys next to you. So I don't mind eating the slide if I know Prince gonna get a one-on-one, or Clay's gonna get a one-on-one, or Cooper Watts gonna get a one-on-one. So it's our brothers. We love to see everybody eat. So there's a lot of unselfish guys on the team, a lot of unselfish guys in our room. So we don't mind not taking a playoff, but like watching out for them, looking out for them in certain places, just so they can get there. So because what they get, it reflects on the whole room. So so we love seeing each other eat. So opportunities like that feels great.
Yeah, Kenny mentioned that, just saying that he said like the D line kind of understands that, sometimes the twist game and just like stuff like that. Sometimes it's the second guy coming around that might actually get the sack, but just that collective mentality of all working together. How do you feel like the collective experience and basically every returning face from a year ago has helped result in that improved pass rush?
Yeah, I'd say it's just trust. Knowing the guys next to you, know you can trust the guy next to you, knowing if I do my 111 that he's going to do his, and it's always going to play how it needs to. So yeah, it's really that part, and then putting your pride aside, knowing like you're not going to have the cleanest rush or the one-on-one each time, but knowing that the guy next to you has it, and not trying to take away from him and trying to get yours, and knowing that everybody plays to one whole, and he eats, everybody eats. So like I said, so having that trust and putting your pride to the side, and being excited when everybody else gets there.
And it seems like there's a lot of sign of respect for you from opposing offenses. Double teaming you constantly, and but still fighting through that. What's it like, just each and every play, just seeing so much kind of extra attention this year from the offense?
I mean, I think a lot of the team in general is getting a lot of respect. So it's not just me. Every D tackle that went in there got double teamed. So yeah, so it was a dogfight for all the D tackles. But like you see what happens. So if they double the D tackles, then you get the singles for the edges, and so like I said, everything plays into one piece. So I don't mind it. If you ask anybody on the D tackles, like the D tackles don't mind it, because we know that we're just doing our 111, and like I said, the stats gonna happen, the plays gonna come. So yeah, I mean, as long as the team's winning, it really doesn't matter. So yeah, it's just a blessing to be out there, a blessing to be able to help the guys and do my part on the team.
The last 2 weeks, you faced a couple of very potent offenses, but held them respectively to each 24 points, multiple turnovers. What do you think those two wins have really done collectively for this team's mindset?
I think it just continues to build confidence. I don't think there's such thing as too much confidence. So once you go past, I guess it's really not confidence anymore, it's arrogance. So as long as you're still in that confidence area, I think it's as much confidence as you need. So So just being able to have that confidence grow each week, knowing that we can get the ball out, knowing we can create turnovers, knowing we can stop the run, get a pass rush, or defend the back end for the DBs and linebackers. So yeah, just building the confidence and just knowing, like, building that trust also. As the time goes on, you kind of trust. You build more trust with those guys who maybe weren't here or you're still here, and now they're starting to come around. So yeah, it's just that trust and that confidence.
Last year's team, it seems like, was kind of defined by the resiliency and the ability to overcome adversity. These last 2 weeks, it seems like some of those similar traits are starting to show up again. How do you maybe compare and contrast to last year's team and their resiliency to this 2025 version of the Sun Devils and the kind of resiliency you guys are showing?
I mean, that's just who we are. It's part of our culture. Every phase we go through, whether it's winter training, summer training, we have adversity, we create adversity. So when it comes to times like this, it's normal for us. We've been in times like this, so we can finish those games. We can be comfortable in those times. So some people can kind of get tense, but I mean that's where we've been on multiple times. So it's what we're used to. I mean, it'd probably be more fun if we had a little bit of a stretch, but I mean that's what we do. So just to be able to have those games, pull those games out, that's probably the biggest thing, is be able to pull those games out, because not everybody can, and so just be able to have that ability to pull those games out is a blessing.
Okay, like Kenny mentioned, just hoping to get to a full game, rather not having to show that resiliency, but just put a full 60 minutes together, rather than on Friday falling behind 17-0. What do you think are the keys now that you've seen this team in action 5 games to putting that complete football game together?
Really, it's just going back to who we are, not straying away from anything, just like the coaches always say, letting the players play and not the scheme. So the coaches, they've been doing that. So now it's just on us as players to do that, do our job, do our 111 in that. So with like so much is good. I'm blanking right now. Too much whom is given, so much is required. So if they give us that responsibility to make plays and to let the players play, we have to step up and actually play and do our job and execute at a high level. So it goes hand in hand. So it's a blessing to have the trust from the coaches. So now it's just on us to continue to improve and execute.
And that's going to do it for this episode of Speak of the Devils. I'd like to thank all our guests, especially Ralph Amsden. Ralph, I know you're up to some stuff. As always, how can folks keep up with all the good things that you're doing?
I'm on X.com, the everything app. It's all happening on X. I'm publisher of Arizona Varsity. We're independent now. We were with Rivals for the last 10 years. If you want to know what's going on in Arizona high school sports, please follow Arizona Varsity. Support independent media. Be greatly appreciated. And I am still part of the College Football Apostles podcast with George Reister. I'm on with him every Tuesday or Thursday, depending on the day he releases it. And it's mostly us just covering the oddball stories throughout all of the weeks of college football.
All right, some good stuff there. There was, of course, no ASU game this week, but the hockey team is getting their season underway. I believe number 1, Penn State, is in Tempe for a pair of games this weekend. So if you need your Sun Devil fix, I think that's one of many options of the way to support the Maroon and Gold. Also, be sure to follow the show on the social media side of things. You can follow the show on Twitter at SOTD Podcast, on Instagram at Speak of the Devils, subscribe on YouTube, follow us on Facebook, give me a follow on all things social at BDenny29, and give us a 5-star review on the podcast platform of your choice once you're done supporting all of our amazing sponsors. And Joe and I will be back next week as we preview ASU's trip to Salt Lake City.